like to do is ask our speakers to come up and sit here, and they're going to be joined by two panelists. And let me introduce the panelists as well, because they were not speaking. First is Julie Smith, who is the head of the DuPont Center of Excellence for Process Automation and Control. And she's an active member of the Open Process Automation Forum business team, and maybe other teams as well, but she's active in that. And our second panelist is Mercy Sung from, I probably said it wrong, I'm sorry, from SUPCON, who SUPCON is also a member of the Open Process Automation Forum. So I'm going to ask them a couple of questions, and then we're going to open it up to the floor. But let me just start by asking Julie to talk about the state of, are you one of the 50% that it has it in the spec or doesn't have it in your spec? And what's kind of the perspective within your firm and DuPont on open process automation? If you could give us that in a nutshell, Julie.
Sure. Again, thanks for the introduction and the opportunity. DuPont has been part of the Open Process Automation Forum for 8-9 years now, something like that. So we obviously have a tremendous value for the standard. DuPont is very decentralized by design. So each business unit has a lot of independence. I'm from a corporate engineering team, but we don't tell the business teams what they're going to do. So they independently decide when they're going to migrate and what platforms they're going to migrate to. So each plant really on their own has the ability to decide, how do I write my spec? How do I write my RFQ? My team creates best practices, guidelines, training to help them do that more effectively. And our procurement organization, of course, tries to get some negotiated pricing to encourage maybe some vendors over the other. But it's really up to each individual business unit and sometimes even each plant to decide how or what systems they want to implement. We're pretty far along the migration journey to what I'd call current generation DCSs in some of our plants, and that's a lot of those were in cases where we couldn't wait. We legally, or for other reasons, maybe it was physically failing, we had to do something and we had to migrate. So those projects are probably 70% complete. There's still a few more that'll be finished up in the next 3 years or so. So how I see us probably most likely taking advantage of open process automation is going to be, as we continue to grow, being able to integrate skids. That's typically how we grow our plants and grow our businesses. We don't have many greenfield installations, but it's very common that we'll need to add a new mixed tank or a new reactor or a new filtration unit or something like that to incrementally expand the capacity of a plant. If those skids, instead of coming in with some locked down PLC solution that we've got to map I/O one by one, which is painful if you've ever done it before. If not, don't do it. I don't recommend it. If it came in, with something that is open, that we can browse the tags and be able to get the data from and integrate it with whatever system is at that plant, that's going to be a tremendous value and really, really help us speed, be able to get those systems up faster, making product.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Mercy, I'd like to ask you to just because this is really the first time that I think your company has been represented here at the Orlando Forum, would you give us just a thumbnail sketch of what you see as the role of open process automation and the OPAF specification in the future and how that fits within SUPCON's plans?
Thank you, Harry. Since this is the first time our SUPCON brands is here in the ERC, so I'll share a brief story about us. We located in Hangzhou, the same city of DeepSeek. Now everybody's talking about that company. So we've been doing DCS, designing, manufacturing, and servicing DCS system like in that city for 30 years. And now most of the process industrial end user in China, they are our clients. And after doing DCS for more than 30 years, we start to think of the next generation control technology. And in last year, we launched our new invention with Dale. We call it the universal control system, basically a software-defined control system, software-defined DCS. And after we showcase our new invention, we start to think, how should we build this new thing to a bigger future, basically. We're start to looking for a proper standard, a common standard, and a future-proof standard. And like earlier last year, we get to know about OPAF and OPA's concepts, and we found out it's basically a very robust and very reliable standard that we need. Just like Dave and Kelly said, the next generation control technology is not a single concept. It's a mix of interoperability, performance, security, openness. So it is very important to find the right mix. And I think the beauty of OPAF and the OPA architecture is it is the right mix, and it is precise and solid enough for our vendors and developers to follow, to build solid and physical products based on the standard. And one more thing about the modern and openness concept, a personal experience. As a young engineer, I started my career 3 years before as a process automation engineer. My first role was to do pre-FAT assembly in our manufacturing base. So by that time, I was a fresh grad software engineer. Suddenly I need to understand everything about process engineering. I need to wire all the system, to do the channel testing, to understand a lot of kind of bizarre concepts. And once those concepts got translated into Chinese, it becomes more bizarre. It's very hard to understand. So it is truly a painful process for me. And I have, just like a lot of engineers I met, we have a lot of imagination about how can we build application upon the control system for our end users. Like, can we add a little bit reinforcement learning on that controller? Can we even test in a simulation environment? But with a traditional infrastructure, this is basically impossible. It is extremely complex. We need to know a lot of historical concepts to test modern technology. But based on this standard, the new standard, the next generation control technology, I think the modernness is very, very important. It is a platform that our engineers can really to come together to use different tech stacks to explore different next generation future applications for our end users.
Thank you. Thank you. I have one more question, then turn it out to the field. I have a question for Kelly. One of your slides, Kelly, mentioned a PLC track and a DCS track in your commercialization plan. And obviously you have, retrofits that involve PLCs and other ones that involve DCS replacements. But can you just fill us in a little bit more on, besides those other things, are there different ways that you do procurement? How do the projects differ in terms of purchases and execution, and what are the volumes that you anticipate? Just give us a little more information about that, because that's new to us a little bit.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's necessarily news. Rather, those are two different scales of systems. I mean, as I mentioned, both the tracks are towards to have more deployments within ExxonMobil. And the reason that I call it the PLC track, which is more of a kind of near-term focus, is those are smaller scales, but we have a large numbers of install base. So I'm just playing my art, so I have a more opportunity of finding the next deployments with some of those smaller scale projects for me to actually able to send out RFPs, get the proposal back, and then get the funding and actually deploy it in the fields and start capturing the benefits. Versus the DCS or some of the larger scales of systems, there are not that many, and we're looking for the right opportunity. So one of the reasons that I target the PLC track is just because the numbers of obsolescence that we have in the fields, and also the opportunity of new deployments of some of the smaller scale PLCs, which give us more opportunity to find the next deployment opportunity.
Do you do an RFQ for each one, or do you How do you
So
specify
we are
that?
starting the next fields with RFQs more because the OPA requirements still relatively new. So we want to make sure that we include that in the procurement process for us to help the supplier understand what's our requirements. But that's also part of the scale up learning process. I encourage others to do that as well. So as we deploy some of these smaller scale projects, it helps to improve the deployment efficiencies and also learning curve of all these OPA systems.
Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to the floor. I was looking for Alan. Alan doesn't seem to be here, but let me take one of these microphones and ask Paul to move that around. What do you know? Here's a question right in the front.
Oh, thanks, Paul. So, Dave Emerson, you talked about small, medium, and large and gave some various measures, but you didn't quantify. What could be small for one might be large for another and vice versa. Could you put some numbers to that? The ranges?
You know, there's really no hard numbers. It's a gradient. But if you think of the pictures I use, which are like actually I use from Dell, you know, do you want a single server? How many cores do you want? You get down to, 1, 2, 3 cores on the low end. If you want to move up, you increase the number of cores and go up to a hyperconverged infrastructure for large. So it's a pure gradient. And there's how many applications do you want to run? From a system management standpoint, how much of your process control do you want to put up there? Do you have some of your corporate, operations software you want to run there? So these are the decisions will go into what size, but it's purely fit for purpose. You play with your number of chassis and how much, how many cores you want. So it's a pure gradient.
Okay, thank you. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So the Lighthouse project was about 1,000 IO, about 100 control loops. Originally, we had started with a little bit bigger system, but we have this thing about not paying for urban renewals, we say. But to sell it to the site, we promised some things, and our leadership decided that maybe we ought to do the scope of the project that was necessary to prove the point with OPA. The small PLC type systems go from 100, 200 IO into our largest systems can be many thousands, and that kind of goes along with how much you might want to do that Dave said. At a small scale system, you might just need an engineering application and maybe an HMI application, and that's it. At our scale system in the Lighthouse, we definitely put in the full domain with all the features and functions that you might have, and we can visualize larger systems that need more, larger historians, larger storage, really advanced process control things like some of the AI and ML and digital twin stuff we've been running or talking about today and yesterday a little bit.
Yeah, just to add to that, the next.
Is that small, medium, or large, Dave?
The Lighthouse system is supersized.
So I'm going to tell you, I think of it as the scale of the process, the plan itself was probably what I call for us, medium, not large or extra large. And you notice I had extra large in mind. The system we put in was definitely large best. We would have never, if this were the 9th project we were running, we would not have shown up with the kit we did. We did hyper-converged, mini blades. We're proving it for the program, not so much the small site.
Yeah, and then for the next OPA deployment, that's a PLC types, is around some 200 IOs, and we're definitely looking for a small version of the ACP capabilities. That's another data point.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Yes, Jim.
I guess this is a question for Kelly. Jim Montague, Control Magazine. Well, you mentioned that you're gonna commercialize this. Does that mean like selling it to other owner operators and?
Thanks. Appreciate the
competitors?
question. So commercialization is a term that we're using. ExxonMobil is more moving from R&D into deployment. And also, it's another meaning is we're looking for commercially available products in the field. So ExxonMobil is not a automation supplier. So we're becoming a smart buyer. So smart buyer to purchase commercially available product in the marketplace.
So commercialization within X.
Being ExxonMobil into deployment. So we started this as an R&D effort. So we're not trying to commercialize or license the technologies. What we're looking for is commercially available product in the marketplace. So we're going to be the smart buyers to purchase. We're looking for commercially available products in the marketplace.
Build the systems. Yeah. So
to build
Lighthouse
OPAF.
project is the end of R&D.
Right.
After this, every project in ExxonMobil can consider whether they use OPA. Now, we've chosen to start small, build our skills. So we're not going to go, build the next giant chemical plant using OPA yet. We need to scale up, learn, get more people trained and capable. But the reality is commercialization is now, it is a commercial choice for us to use where it's appropriate.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's the reason I ask, is a lot of system integrators over the years have written some software, and all of a sudden they're in the shrink wrap software business, and so I thought you might be as well. I'm just curious.
No, we're not trying to license this product. Again, we're going to be a smart buyers.
Okay, question from Luis.
So Luis Duran, ABB, and this might be like a planted question. I don't know how many end users in the room, but I asked Dave DeBarry a question last week, and I want to ask it again in public, which is, what would be your recommendation to the end users in the audience based on your lessons learned from the Lighthouse?
So we have done the system. It is running a plant. We have to make a profit. There are vendors who are offering products. There are vendors who are coming out with products. There are things you can see over in the center, in the displays that you have. There are a lot of vendors that have products that comply and are headed towards, the conformance process within OPAS. Please look at them. These are bringing you the technologies you need. We're doing interoperability. We're doing interchangeability. There's actually a new thing over there. It comes from the PIC-MG group. Several vendors took the standard. They took the connector. They put devices together. It was literally assembled 2 or 3 days ago. It's assemble a system using common standards from different suppliers. And this is where we'd say, and this is our message that Kelly and I wanted to make sure you all understand. Every project goes, every R&D thing goes from this, it's a crazy idea, to, the dangerous stage where people don't like it. They don't want to do it. And then it becomes normal. And I'm going to argue with you that this is normal. You can now get it. You can now do it. It is early days, but that's okay. You want to start small anyways to learn the technology and learn how to really use it. And then once you do, you can't go back.
Yeah, so David went through the crazy phase already. So I'm lucky to join when now it's more normal. And again, to repeat the message I have earlier, deployment is what we think is that's going to help us and critical for the wide adoptions. So we need more deployments of the OPA system. Again, ExxonMobil have done it, so we encourage other end users to join us as well.
Okay, other questions? I have one if you don't, and we have time for one, maybe two more. Okay, I don't see somebody, so I'm going to ask a question to Dave. I assume you're the right person to ask about this, but can you tell us a little bit about the training that you did, but more importantly, the support? Where is this plant in Baton Rouge getting support, and how's that working? What is their line of support and their escalation process and so on?
So we did change the support model, but I'll start with the training. We brought our people from Baton Rouge to our testbed facility in the Woodlands, Texas, right near our campus. We tried to include them very early. And what we started showing them is the technologies are very similar to the technologies they've been using. We're using OPC-UA, which is a little better than what OPC-UA Classic was. OPC-UA has a lot more cybersecurity. We brought the people to see what we were going to do in cybersecurity. This system is, for an automation system, it is locked down pretty good. It has probably got more cybersecurity things in it than you would ever see in any other system, at least the parts we see. So from a support standpoint, we have entered into a support contract with our system integrator to supply that service to us. So for software support and hardware support and those kinds of things, we're going to, we don't want to have 19 support contracts. We decided to have one. And so that's sort of the model. We do that today with the vendor procured system. We might do that in the future. Vendors a system integrator, we'll go down this same pathway. Our expectation was it doesn't have your brand name on it. You still got to help support us. So we need that support. And so the first call is to our system integrator, support contract people. And we're using common skills for common and standardized technology. So special knowledge of somebody's tools and languages, not required. That's one of the key pieces of this.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry to say we're out of time. These folks will be around here this week and tonight at the reception, and please feel free to buttonhole them and ask them anything you want. But I think we owe them thanks for all the work they've done and for coming here to present for us.